Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Binary Life, a channel that teaches new developers how to code by solving multiple algorithm problems so that you can see the walkthrough process. Today we'll solve the index of array in array, which is a relatively difficult kata of 6Q. So let's get to read the exercise. JavaScript's index of does not work with arrays in array. So what does that mean? Basically, let's go to the Node.js console. I'll just come back to it later on. So we are given an array like this, which is an array of arrays, and we're given a search string, and we have to return the index of this sub-array inside this mother array. We can see here it's index 0. You can find this combination at index 0 here. If we search for 5, 6, we can find it at index 2. And if we search for 9, 2, it's not found up there, so we return -1. But the difficulty of this exercise lies in error controls. For example, the mother array here, arrayToSearch, is supposed to be an array of sub-arrays of 2 elements each. Here we can see 3 elements, so if we see more than 2, we throw an error. Now this one doesn't have sub-arrays, so we throw an error also. And this one is a valid input, so it's okay. Now about the query, it's always an array of 2 elements, so this is valid. If it's 1 element, we throw an error. If it's more than 2, we throw an error also. So I've already solved it, but I'll just do the walkthrough process so that you can see what went on behind the scenes. So the code looks like this. First of all, start by eliminating all those errors we need to catch. The first one is checking if it's an array. If I go back to the console, this is the principle. This is my Node.js. If I have an array like this, 2 and 33, I cannot compare like this. Like these 2 sub arrays equivalent? In JavaScript, it returns false. So there's certainly another way. I need to do something like this: is array function. Then I pass in my array to 33. It returns true. So this is how you check if something is an array, like this. So this is how I do the checking. I check if the query that was passed as a parameter is an array. If it's not, I automatically catch it down here. I throw a new error here. Query is not an array error, something like that. We have been flexible on the exercise to throw the error we want. So it just says throw an error, so you can throw whatever you want. Right, let's come back to the code. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and here we check if the query length is equal to 2. If it's not equal to 2, we throw another error, invalid query length. And then here we have already checked everything concerning query. Now we check everything concerning the mother array, this one. I started with this one because it's a small array, so it makes the algorithm fast. Since we start with a smaller array, so we can just throw errors and quit the thing. Okay, the mother array, we loop through every element in the array, and every sub element inside is supposed to be an array of itself. That is why we do the same checking. Is this a sub array, or is the sub element an array, if you wish? If it's not, we throw another error, invalid to search 2-dimensional, which means it's not a 2-dimensional array, something like that. And then we check the length of that sub array. Is it equal to 2? If not, we say that it's an invalid. We throw another error. There's an invalid sub array error. At the end of all of this error checking, if every test has passed here, we should be able to have the valid index, something like this. Let's come back to the exercise. like here, if we are searching this 1 2 sub array inside this mother array, we see that it's at index 0. But how do we check it when I just told you that we cannot compare sub arrays like this? So what did I do? We can't compare sub arrays like this, but let's do a test. If I have one array like this, array 1, array 1 is like this, it's 2 and 33, and array 2 is 2 and 33 also. So basically this is array 1 and this is array 2. If I say array 1, if I compare with array 2, it returns false. But if I join it, something like this, that's if I convert to a string if you wish, and redo the comparison, then that becomes true. So that's what I use to do the checking at the code level here. So I check again for the query and the sub array here. If the two strings are the same, and then I return the index. And remember, in the exercise we have been asked to return the first index. See, the first matching element here. That is why after conserving this index, I break out of the loop. There's no need to loop further. And I put this into my answer, which I initialized right in the beginning up there, and I'll change it. So the default is -1 in case we find nothing. If not, if we find something here, it's going to be replaced by the right answer, and at the very end of the loop we return it. And this console log was just for verification purposes. So that's the spirit behind it, and you can get the algorithm on the description below. You get the GitHub link, and then let's do the submission. And let's look at other examples if there is something better than what we did. This is the same thing, just aligning of the different error checks in a different manner. This is much simpler than what we wrote. So we do the checking for the, this is a function. This is a function you're supposed to check the length of an array here. It's a function, an arrow function that I think he uses everywhere down here. So he uses that function here for the query. That's if it's not an array and if the length is not 2, it returns a boolean. This function returns a boolean, and then so we use that boolean expression that function returns here, and we throw an error. The error will come from the system because he never specified anything. And then when he's done with that, so he used this function twice. He checks it on the query and on the mother array here. And if everything is wrong, he just throw an error, and we are off. Everything is done with the error at this level, and then the rest of the algorithm here is checking for the index of the sub array, which is a very efficient way of coding. It's a one-liner. This is actually neat. But it's actually the same like we did, just a shorter form of writing it, a very clever manner. This is also converting it to string using the join approach we did. This is the same thing. All right. Alright, this is another way to check if something is an array. Basically an array is an object in JavaScript, so he checks if it's an object. The problem with this one is that you don't know which kind of object it is. This first approach here is better because it specifies if it's an array object, but this still works. For the sake of this exercise, this is sufficient. Right, I'm going to stop here, and thanks for viewing, and see you in another video for another exercise. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button.